Hi everyone, how are you all doing? Busy preparing for exams, pre-boards, right? So I thought of coming up again with this important session, and I hope this session is going to help you. Since I'm an English teacher, and I have seen a lot of students solving comprehension passages with a lot of confidence. But I have also seen that the creativity part is lost. What generally the students tend to do is they solve the comprehension, they read the comprehension passage, but the answers which they write are directly taken up from the text, which I would not encourage. And today's session is going to help you a lot to understand as to how do we solve comprehension passages. Okay, so we move ahead. Here we go. So I welcome you all to this interesting session of Unacademy, and it's a privilege for me to take up this session to make you all understand as to how to go about it. So through Unacademy, this is possible, which is giving me the platform to come up with interesting sessions as well as make you aware of all the do's and don'ts of certain topics of language as well as literature. Moving ahead, I'll be giving you some tips to solve comprehension passages, and this complete session is going to help you understand what are the strategies. Usually, if there are students who are confident enough to solve it and come up with their own answers, it is quite preferable. The examiners, they prefer it. So, I'll be helping you out through this session. So, let's move ahead. Introducing myself, I'm Paromita Chattaraj, and most of my students who know me, I'm a plus educator on Unacademy, which is a wonderful online learning platform for students and for educators, to explore through. To say a few things about myself, I have been trained under British Council and I have been awarded as the activity coordinator, and I have also been trained under different platforms. So far, through my hard work, through my passion, I've been able to make my children show very good results and make them skillful. So, moving ahead, I hope everybody is ready with today's topic, which is tips to solve comprehension passages. Let's crack it. Now, the first slide here shows that one question that constantly plagues every student's mind is how to improve in reading comprehension. See, the first and foremost thing, people think that, taking up the text, reading the text and reading the entire passage and, just copying the text is going to fetch me marks. Probably that is not the mantra, right? Now, reading comprehension questions are a tricky ball game, definitely. Now, from the point of view of grade 9th, 10th, 11th, or 12th students, when we talk about comprehension passages, this time the comprehension passages, the factual as well as the discursive passages, are going to be quite typical. Now, and the students, most of the students are of the opinion that okay, if I read the comprehension passage, MCQ hai, I will be able to solve it. But while solving that MCQ or the multiple choice question, even there are 1 mark questions as well, there are students who commit frequent errors. Now, reading comprehension passages can be time consuming, energy sapping, and information intensive. Yes, that is the reason CBSE papers have ICSE, CBSE papers, question papers give you exclusive reading time. Now, those 15 minutes are supposed to be utilized very meticulously. On the other hand, the rewards they offer are fascinating. If you grasp a passage well, you should be able to get most of the questions in a single passage correct, and this means you gain quite a few marks. Now, this particular point, which I would like to highlight, is that if you have read and if you have understood the passage nicely, and if you are able to interpret it and write the answers correctly, then definitely you will be able to score well. And when it comes to the multiple choice questions, also the correct answer has to be ticked. Now, how do I do this? How will you tick to the correct answer? There will be two sets or three sets of different questions. So when you read the passage, you will have to read between the lines. The first reading might not be like that. Alright, so you have to read it very intensely, trying to grasp whatever has been asked you to do. Whatever you can grasp, you will have to do it. May not be in one go in the second read. And one of the most significant factors for solving reading comprehension and being accurate in this area actually revolves around the approach you adopt for this topic. Very true. Very true, because when you are reading a comprehension passage, if you just read it casually, trust me, it is not going to work for you. But on the other hand, if you read the comprehension passage in a very intense way, and as we say, reading between the lines, okay, reading between the lines is very necessary for solving a comprehension passage. Here, your overconfidence is not going to work, but if you are confident enough that you have read the passage nicely, you have understood it, and you have retained certain, you will have to annotate the passage also. I always tell my students to annotate. What is the meaning of annotating? Annotating means underlining those keywords and phrases that you think might be helpful for you to answer certain questions. So this is the introductory part that I have told you, and you will have to keep that in mind, that while reading a passage or reading comprehension passage, what are some of the things that you should be doing in the initial stage. Moving ahead, I will also be talking about few more strategies, and I'll also show you a sample in the end, and you will come to know how the answers are done. So shall we move ahead? Okay, now what are the misconceptions? Okay, there are some misconceptions related to the way of answering the comprehension, and they are: it is possible to understand the key idea of paragraph by just reading the first and last sentence. Please, it is a strong request and advice, don't go by this. Please do not go by this. There are students who just take a quick read. Pehla sentence pad liya, maybe another 2-3 sentences in the introductory part, and maybe the last sentence, and they think that they are able to grasp the key idea of that particular passage. Reading the question first will help to understand the paragraph better. This is also not true. If you, for example, if you have started reading the questions first, all right, how will you come to understand what the question is asking about? Because at that point of time, you are clueless about the passage. You are clueless about the content of the passage, because all the questions which are asked are related to the content. So, if you are not at all aware of the content, how is it possible that you just read the question and you understand that, okay, the answer is this? This is a huge misconception. Please do not do this. Do not fall into the trap. Please see the video and attend the session. If you are not able to attend a live session, see the video again, and please go by whatever are the tips which have been given through this particular session. So don't be under this misconception that if you read the first sentence and the last sentence, you'll be able to solve it, and if you read the questions first, you'll be able to go ahead with the comprehension passage. This is absolutely false. The next one here is, it is not possible for a person to remember all the questions. Also, the questions are sometimes indirect, indirect in nature. Not necessarily all questions are supposed to be directly asked. even sometimes the multiple choice questions are also twisted. And while you have had a look into all the questions, and then when you go to the comprehension passage to take a read, will you be able to remember all the questions? Please answer. Will you be able to retain? I don't think so. It's not necessary. And the questions sometimes, for example, there are 5 questions which have been the five 1 mark questions have been given along with the multiple choice questions. Is it always necessary that it is going to be given paragraph wise, unless the question mentions that according to paragraph 1 or according to paragraph 2 or according to paragraph 3? Unless it mentions, it is not always necessary that you are going to get the questions in sequence or in order. It's not necessary at all. Now it is advisable that you don't get into this misconception. Please go very methodically, read the comprehension passage very thoroughly in between the lines, understand what it is, grasp the meaning, and then go to solve the question answer so that your scoring is good. Okay? Do not get into these misconceptions which I have spoken just few minutes back. Now, these are some of the skills that you all can see. Analytical ability, vocabulary power, reading speed. Reading speed is very, very necessary. Logical ability, reasoning, inference. Now, if you read a factual passage as well as a discursive passage, now there will be lot of facts which will be given, and you will have to understand the explicit and the implicit meaning. When I say explicit and implicit meaning, which means what? Explicit meaning which is quite apparent and is directly shown to you, and implicit meaning is what? Implicit meaning is something which is hidden in the passage. The first and foremost thing which I feel personally is your reading speed. If you are used to reading a lot of things, lot of books, lot of articles, then your speed should be at par. And if you have that particular reading speed and your analytical ability and your ability to reason why such and such question has been given, why these facts and these datas have been given, what are the inferences, what can I understand from the implicit meaning of the passage, then only you will be able to solve a comprehension passage with full justice. And that is how you are going to score more. Once again, if you see this mind map, vocabulary power, analytical ability, logical ability, reasoning ability, inference power and reading speed, all these are your prerequisite skills that you should be having to solve a comprehension passage. If you just go into any sorts of hurry, and the second thing which I often see is that students end up answering the same thing which is there in the text. There is absolutely no creativity. There's absolutely no creativity at all. So if you have good vocabulary power and analytical ability and logical and understanding of the implicit meanings, then you should be able to solve a comprehension passage in a very, very nice way. That is, you should strive to score well through these skills. Now, some of the important strategies. The first and the foremost, read the passage as fast as possible but not too speedily. Also, when you read it for the first time, the first reading has to be a little fast, but the second reading has to be a little slower than the first attempt, because at that point of time you will have to read between the lines. And you will have to read it so thoroughly that you have to involve yourself completely in the passage, and you will have to understand it, because understanding the passage is the first thing to answer the questions which have been given to you. Okay. As I have already said, underlining important lines or passage or parts of the passage to answer the questions. Now, I have read the passage. Maybe in the first reading, I was not able to understand what the passage is saying. Definitely, a second, sometimes a third reading also has to be done. And after I have taken the third and the second and the third reading, I might have been able to understand what the passage is trying to say. All right. Then I go to the questions. And one by one, now if there are multiple choice questions, then also you have to go to the passage again. Now your passage is going to be your Bible. Understanding the passage and then moving on to the questions to solve is the first step. It will also help to understand the main idea of the passage or the tone or the mood of the author. Of course, somebody or the other has written the passage, and you have to understand what kind of tone the passage is involving, right? So sometimes there are questions, there are indirect questions that through these lines, what is the author trying to say? In that case, if you have read the passage thoroughly, you will have to understand what is the author trying to express, and while expressing, what kind of tone the author has adapted. So, to solve such kind of a question, you will have to understand the tone and mood of the author, which is expressed in that particular passage to by the author, and that is going to depict the tone or the mood. Now comes the next point, which shows try to translate a complex line in an easy one in your own words and in your own language, which is the T. This is what I want my students to do. Now, if there is a very complicated, complex sentence or maybe a content in the passage, and there is a question which is related to that. Now, my question to all the students here is, will you be copying the entire text or will you be writing, understanding and writing the answer in your own words? Please post your responses. Please post your responses in the comment box. What will you do? Will you be writing a complex content from the text as it is, or will you analyze it? Will you understand it and then write it in your own words? So, the main idea or the main thing the main strategy which I wanted you all to understand is that if you have gone through the passage and if you have understood the key idea and there is a complex content which is given in the paragraph, if you just simplify it and if you analyze it and then see whether you can just write it in your own words or not, I think that is going to help you a lot. Because I'm just going to tell you, see, when the examiner, corrects the answers, and if he sees that the student has repeatedly used the text again and again, again and again, and there is just no creativity or probably no use of the student's own words, it kind of dissatisfies the examiner. Okay, so my advice or the strategy here is that please read the passage nicely, analyze it, whatever complex content you have, just simplifying it try simplifying it, frame the answers in your own words, and that is going to make the examiner very happy. Now, how do you frame it in your own words? Now, there are certain key words and phrases which you have the liberty to pick them up and you can just write them. Now, these keywords which are mentioned in the passage has got some of the other logical connections with the passage. Definitely, they are quite relevant to the passage because they have been used in the passage. So, if you take certain terminologies or certain words from the unseen comprehension and then use it in your answer which is framed in your own words, that solves your problem. That is going to work. Trust me. All right. So, this is what I was talking. Just give me a minute. We'll move ahead with some more strategies and let's see. Okay. Now, the unseen comprehension is a complete new thing to you. So here the first point says, try to, I am saying it from the point of view of the questions which ask the synonyms or the meanings of the words. So here there is one more thing that you will have to read a lot to, familiarize yourself with new words and probably applying new words and knowing new words. So the first, the next point here is try to understand some certain unfamiliar words by reading the line thoroughly. You will not have a dictionary over there to refer to. So the theme of the line will make you understand the meaning of the words. This actually is a very tricky part which most of the students come across, and they have told me that, ma'am, the synonyms and the meanings of those new or alien unfamiliar words becomes difficult for us. So here my question is, how many of you read? Unless you read short articles or certain fictions or books, you cannot be familiar with the words. And these words which come in the comprehension passages are completely unfamiliar, they are completely new to you. So how do you crack it? How do you find out a close meaning of the word? Now here the strategy is that you will have to read the line again and again. Okay, that's the first thing. Now reading the line 2 to 3 times and understanding what the line is trying to express will again help you to understand, okay, this particular word is probably meaning this because the content or the sentence over here tries to infer something or tries to have an implicit or an explicit meaning with reference to this. So this is how you are going to solve the questions which ask you the meaning or the synonym of the words. Determine the main idea, tone or mood, inferential reasoning and other details from the paragraph. Don't assume anything based on your personal belief. Look back at the paragraph. I will be discussing all these things. When in doubt, read the questions and all the alternative provided and choose the most appropriate one. Now coming to the second one. Main idea, tone, mood, inferential reasoning. There can be n number of details in a particular passage and based on which there can be questions, direct as well as indirect. Now in tone or mood, definitely. As I've already told you, there can be a question that through these lines, what does the author mean when he says this, this, this? That is expressive of the tone or the mood. Because the passage has been written catering to a particular tone or mood. So when you read the passage, you will come to know that, okay, fine, the author is trying to express this, this, this. Now comes inferential reasoning, which means what? Now there are certain inferences, certain hidden meaning. Inference means what? Nothing is explicit, nothing is directly shown. Inferences has to be understood. A passage may try to convey you something. Apart from that, there are other details in the passage which may have direct questions. Now inferential reasoning means there can be certain things which you have to understand and which is not directly mentioned in the passage. Here again the mantra is, or the strategy is, or the tip is that you will have to read the passage to understand what the passage is trying to convey. Please don't assume anything. When you have understood what the passage is trying to convey, the question which is related to that can be solved very easily. Alright, no assumptions to be made. You cannot afford to. Okay. Now, there cannot be any formula, but there can be strategies. If you end up just, assuming something which is not true and something which is self-created, probably you cannot afford to do that because you will lose marks. So, whenever there is a doubt in any of your question, I have already told you time and again that you will have to get back to the passage time and again. The entire passage and paragraphs which are related to that particular question is going to be your Bible. Because end of the day, the questions are based on that particular comprehension which you have been given. So, moving ahead, read the questions and all the alternative provided and choose the most appropriate one. This is meaning, I mean, this statement is with reference to the multiple choice question, wherein most of the students make a lot of error. And my dear students, it's my advice, since this is the most scoring part, do not be under the hurry or do not be under any false notion or any assumption so that you end up solving something which is incorrect. Now comes the choosing of the most closest option of the comprehension passage. Now how do we do it? I have read the passage and there is a question. Now these multiple choice questions may have implicit, once again, implicit and explicit meaning. There are certain options which you have to understand from the passage and the options will be given, and certain things, if you are lucky enough, it may have a direct question and the options might also be direct. So in that case, choosing, but no hasty choosing. अच्छे से आपको क्वेश्चन पढ़ना है and then you'll have to see what are the options. So once you have seen the options and the correct option, when you see the closest, the most appropriate one has to be chosen, right? Here you just cannot keep guessing the option, because end of the day, now for example, you are stuck in a multiple choice question. What will you do? You will again go back to the passage, read it, because it is from the comprehension passage itself. There is just no doubt to it that if you read the comprehension passage again and if you are stuck in any of the multiple choice question, you are definite to get an answer if you read it. And then after reading it and understanding it, choose the most appropriate and the closest option. All right. Okay. Now, coping up with, reading a comprehension passage and reading it and then solving it is how you deal about, how you cope up. It is definitely a big challenge, but it is the central aspect as well. When we know that there will be two comprehension passages given to us, and that is the area that where I can score. Definitely it's a challenge, but if you just go through these strategies which I am talking about, I feel you can just do a wonderful job. How will you balance? How will you cope up with this huge challenge? While ensuring that you strike a fine balance for this area, it is important that you keep a number of things in your mind and ensure you don't fall into the common pitfalls. Yes. Now, what are these common pitfalls? Now, there are certain points which I'm again going to talk about. I have already spoken that there are certain misconceptions, there are certain errors which often is visible, which often can be seen with the students, and this is the reason I have taken this session to tell you what are the tips and what are the strategies. So, what are the points that we should be keeping in mind? How should we balance? How should we cope up? And why should we do it? Why should we do it? See, end of the day, we are appearing for our final exams and we know that comprehension passages are an area. Every area has to be scoring, right? You have to solve all the areas, reading, writing, literature, everything has to be done. So when I am talking about this reading comprehension passage, what are some of the points or some of the pitfalls or some of the don'ts that we should be keeping in mind, that we should not be doing this, we should not be doing this, and we should not be doing this. So what are the following points that we should be keeping? Okay. Now, do not overemphasize trivialities, means Details are important, but don't be obsessed with examples, illustrations, and so on. You just need to get a hang of the main point and not the examples. For example, now I will just comprehending the all flow and structure will help you analyze and answer the question. Please listen to me now. For example, you have read the passage and there are 4 questions which has 2 mark each. That comes to 8. Now the question has asked you something. And in that case, you very well understand that even if you don't give an example or an illustration, it can fetch you marks. So here my point is just stick to the main point which the question has asked, because comprehension passages and the answers are supposed to be just to the point. You have to be very specific. Ekdam spot on. This saves time as well. Please comprehend the entire structure of your answer. Specific answer likhiye, analyze the entire thing, and then provide a very good answer. And here, the strongest advice or a request to all of you is that please answer in your own words. Even if you write down a simple answer, but if you have used your own words and not copied from the text, it is going to, make you win the battle. I have corrected n number of comprehension passages wherein I see that most of the students have copied everything from the text. The answer is nothing, and I have to write a remark copied from the text. Please don't make your examiner do that. And once this is again connected to the second thing, that second point, do not memorize. You don't need to memorize every word present in the passage. You need not. That is what I said. That the first point is related to the second point. How? How is it related? Because if I am writing it in my own words, I'm not depending on my memory. I'm not depending on something which I have memorized from the passage. What if I tend to forget? क्या होगा तब भूल जाएंगे? So in that case, if you have understand the key message or the implicit meaning of the passage and understanding the flow, structure and the main points in the passage should be your priority. If you have understood all these things, that is the flow, the structure and the main points, you should be able to pen down at least a 2-mark answer or a 3-mark answer. Mostly you will see that your comprehension passages will be 1 into 4, 1 into 5, 1 into 8, 1 mark each. So in that case, you just have to understand what the question is asking me, what the passage is trying to convey, and how should I be writing the answer in my own words. Why? Because I have understood the flow, I know the structure and the main points which I should be mentioning in my answer in using my own words. Now for factual or specific point question, yes, here I would definitely advise, because you will have 2 passages, one is factual and one is discursive. So I would definitely advise that if there are datas and if there are facts which you are supposed to be giving, then you can read the passage again, reread the passage, pick up that fact which is supposed to be mentioned in your answer, and then you can frame your answer accordingly. But not the entire thing. Okay, it is the expectation of the examiners. If the child writes the answers of the comprehension passages in his or her own words, it's definitely preferable. Do not read the passage first. Sometimes this works, yes. Always go through the questions first and then the passage. This will prepare you to focus on the things you need to look in the passage. It can act vice versa. It can sometimes act vice versa. Both ways, excuse me. Both ways it can work. Sometimes there are students who read the questions first and sometimes there are students who read the passage first. As of now, I feel both ways. Now it is again depending upon the comfort level of the student, individual to individual. It varies. Right? Personally, if you ask me, I would be reading the comprehension first and then go to the question. But there are students and there are people who read the questions first and then come to the passage. It may act both ways. So focus only on the questions and not on one particular answer option. Yes. Here, if you see the last line, a quick overview of the question is sufficient. If you have decided that I will read the questions first and not the passage first, then just take a quick overview. At a glance, just check what the questions are, because previously I had mentioned that reading the questions first without knowing the content will not work. Sometimes, now here, when I say do not read the passage first, I mean to say that please take an overview. At a glance, एक नजर आप डाल लीजिए questions पर क्या है, then definitely get back to your passage. Now, do not overemphasize on vocabulary skills for RCs, reading comprehensions. Not here. Shakespearean vocabulary is not suggested, but good vocabulary is definitely suggested. You need not, when I say Shakespearean vocabulary, you need not employ jargons. One of the skill of writing your answer of the comprehension passage in your own words is expressing good vocabulary, but that does not mean that you have to have heavy jargons in your answer. Nobody has asked you. If you use simple words, if you are skillful enough to frame and structure and maintain a certain flow of your answer, then you are sorted. ज़्यादा stressed होने की ज़रूरत नहीं है passage पढ़ते पढ़ते. Make sure you understand the gist of the passage and don't get stuck on particular words. If that particular word is not asked, as there may be certain words from the passage which may be asked. You may be asked, according to the passage, what does this particular word mean? There may be 2 to 3 words that maybe a 1 mark question for you. Okay, and there can be certain tough words also. So उसपे जाके you need not get stuck on that. Okay, just check for those words which are comprehensive and which are easily understandable. So go for that. And again, I have already told in one of the strategies that you will have to read that particular line and the content area of that particular word, which will help you to understand what the word is speaking about. And if there are synonym related or meaning related questions, then you can also solve that. Do not spend time on reading comprehension that you cannot comprehend at first, which means what? You will have 2 passages. Okay. Sometimes while practicing also we come across maybe certain reading content which we cannot understand at all. It is quite tougher. So go from a level wherein you can understand, where you can comprehend that particular passage, and then slowly increase your level. Now when it comes to the exam, looking into the current pattern, we have seen that the pattern of the comprehension passage is changed. Okay, so if you have a choice, go for an easier one. If you don't have a choice, if you have an unseen poem and you feel that you can, there are some times that the first passage will be given for you to solve compulsory, and in the second passage there is a choice between a poem and a passage. If you feel that you have a choice, you have an option, and the poem can be solved by you in an easy way, then please go for it. You will have to check your priority and you will have to focus that, okay, fine, I understand this particular passage, and I can solve this. If there is a complicated passage which you might not be able to comprehend or might not be able to understand, don't go for it. If you are lucky, you will get an option between a passage and an unseen poem. All right. And if you see the 6th one, I have told this repeatedly during the session that do not think the correct option would come from outside the passage. सब कुछ passage में है. Especially when you are solving a multiple choice question. Okay, the right answer has to be in the passage और कहीं से नहीं. It is going to be based on the information which is given within the passage. So don't get carried away or don't get distracted from the options which is given for you for something which is not related to the passage. And don't go for it. It's for you to understand that okay, fine, I have read this passage and this is what is the thing. All right. Do not rely on trigger words means if you don't read attentively through the passage, there may be certain words which might be triggering you or आपका ध्यान इधर उधर चला जाता है. A passage may focus on one point for quite a bit of sentences and then changes towards the end with trigger words like but, however. Okay, so this actually contradicts, these words contradicts certain statements. यहाँ पर आपको क्या करना है? Focus on what you are reading. Don't get carried away by these contradictory words. जल्दी जल्दी नहीं पढ़ना है. Skimming of the comprehension passage is to be done patiently. Okay. Now comes making notes. Yes. While you are reading a text, while you are reading a comprehension passage, either you annotate the passage, underline it with the help of a pencil or question paper mein. If you want, you can just scribble certain pointers which you may feel is going to help you writing, help you to write the answers. You can include those points or those content in your answers. So while you are reading it, just fatafat annotate it. Underline. Annotating means underlining, making a quick note in the question paper if you are allowed. Now in the board exams, it is a rule that you cannot be writing anything on the question paper. So use the right margin of your answer sheet and start making notes regarding that particular question. If you feel that you need to note down something, use a pencil so that you can erase it later. And quick notes can always be helpful to answer certain questions. This is a very essential thing, annotating the passage and making quick notes. Once again, preempting questions means it is a difficult skill. Okay. Not many people can do it, but I am not saying that you cannot do it. Here the challenge is that if you are familiarized and if you have practiced enough and you understand that this is the kind of comprehension that I'm going to get and this is the kind of questions that may come in my exam, then you can do it. Otherwise, no need to get stressed about it. If you can preempt, well and good. If you cannot preempt, the mantra here is, the tip here is that please practice at least 5 to 6 passages before your exams to understand the confidence level as well as the grasping power for solving the comprehension questions. Okay? 1 minute, please. Now comes opening and closing paragraphs require extra focus. Questions such as the main idea questions are based on the overall subject of the passage. Yes, you will have to get the central idea of the passage and there has to be questions based on that. And majority of the time the answer to this question lies either in the first paragraph or in the last paragraph. So while I am reading the passage, my duty is that I should be seeing what is the first paragraph trying to convey. Apart from getting the gist of the entire passage, getting the central idea of the entire passage, the first and the last paragraph from which it is quite likely that questions may come, I am supposed to be focusing and getting a hang of the idea which is there in the first paragraph and then again which is there in the second paragraph. In the last paragraph. So what are the informations that you can, here also you can annotate, you can underline, you can make small, notes. If you assume or if you feel that there might be questions which can be derived from these. This is very, very important. Constantly question yourself while reading the passage. Why? Why do you question yourself? क्यों करना होता है ऐसा? Because see, you may feel that, Are, I am reading the comprehension passage, Abhi, why do I question myself? In order to maintain your concentration while reading, make sure that some basic questions keep playing at the back of your mind. This is very, very, yes, what is the author's main point? What is he trying to convey? Why has the author written this passage? What kind of vocabulary or sentences has been chosen by the author, to express the main point of this passage or express the central idea of this passage? How has the author organized all his, material, the facts, the datas? Because in a factual passage, you will get certain facts and datas. In a discursive passage, also there are certain content. So while I'm reading the passage, it should be a constant process which should be going on in your mind. ऐसा क्यों है, वैसा क्यों है? Keep questioning yourself. You do not have to say it aloud. So when you try questioning these, and you will get to see that you later on, when you are actually solving the questions, writing the answers of these questions, you will be able to do it, in a very, very methodical way. Because end of the day, the comprehension passage and the central idea is what the entire story revolves around. This is what you will have to keep asking yourself. So I have put one sample over here, and I will be showing you the questions also. Power foods are foods that provide rich levels of nutrients like fiber, potassium and minerals. While people becoming increasingly health conscious today, a lot of fitness trainers encourage their clients to include these foods in their daily diet to increase muscle development. There are various ways of incorporating power foods in your daily diet. Of course, the key to enjoying power foods is proper preparation of these foods, the use of seasoned fresh foods, and identifying your choice of flavor among power foods. Nowadays, it's a trend. Super foods or power foods. How can you eat them? If you notice in the first paragraph itself, the author or the central theme of the passage itself is quite apparent and quite clear. I can very well understand that the passage is now going to talk about the proteins, vitamins, minerals, this, that. Some of the recommended power food combinations are those that are prepared in our kitchens on a regular basis. Take for instance the combination of chickpeas and onions. The combination of is a powerful source of iron which is required by the body of transport oxygen to its various parts. Iron deficiency can lead to anemia, fatigue, brain fog and tiredness. A study by the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry says that sulfur compounds in onion and garlic help in absorption of iron and zinc from chickpeas. The combination is a hit with teenagers who need to be diligent about getting iron in their diet. A quick way to prepare their food is to make chickpea salad with chopped onions and chaat masala and cilantro. Now in the second paragraph, again, there are certain suggestions about power foods or superfoods which can be useful in consuming iron, zinc, sulfur, etc. etc. Powerful sources of iron. Another favorite combination with power food takers is yogurt and bananas. This makes a perfect snack for rough game of football, exercising, bumps in glucose and thus lowers blood sugar. Yogurt is packed with proteins that help preserve muscle mass, and bananas are packed with carbohydrates that help in refueling energy and preventing muscle soreness. A quick and easy recipe with bananas is banana smoothie topped with cool yogurt. Among beverages, green tea. Nowadays, people have become so health conscious that how to consume iron, how to consume carbohydrates, how much to consume, what are the detoxifying beverages that we can take, and one of them is green tea, which is the best source of catechins that are effective in halting oxidative damage to cells. According to researchers at the Purdue University, adding a dash of lemon juice to green tea makes the catechins even more easily absorbable by the body. So the next time, if instead of our friends serve them rounds of iced green tea with mint and lemon juice. So whatever if you read the entire para, if you have understood the entire passage, it was all about consuming superfoods, and it is just not consuming superfoods. About it is also, the entire passage is also talking about rich sources of minerals, proteins, carbohydrates, antioxidants, etc., and how they can be absorbed in your body. One thorough read is going to make you understand what is the entire passage all about. Now, if I move on to the questions, you see there are these are all 1 mark questions which you will be getting. What are power foods? What are the rules regarding the partaking of power foods? We'll see the answers in the next slide. What is the advantage of including onions and garlic? It said it was rich in sulfur. Suggest a quick recipe of chickpea and onions. There was a salad which was suggested. What is yogurt and bananas? An enriching power food. Why they are? It has carbohydrates and iron. Why is green tea recommended? Because it has antioxidants. What is the advantage of combining green tea with lemon juice? What is the key to enjoying power foods in a wholesome way? Now we'll see the answers and how they are written. If you see, power foods are foods which provide rich level of nutrients like fiber, potassium and minerals. If you notice, the answer is just up to the mark. Ekdam spot on. No extra detail because we know this is a 1 mark question. Power foods should be prepared properly using seasoned fresh fruits and identifying one's choice of flavor among power foods. If you see, the answer is very simple, very specific. Your own words have been used, and it is just depicting spot on ideas. There was a question, how do chickpeas and onions can be combined? It can be made, a quick way to prepare chickpea and onions is to make a chickpea salad with chopped onion, chaat masala and cilantro. How is green tea beneficial? It contains catechins which are effective in halting oxidative damage to cells. How is the combination of lemon juice with green tea? How is it going to be helpful? When we combine green tea with lemon juice, it helps the body to absorb catechins more easily. If you see, none of the answers have exceeded the content or the word limit, and they have been answered very specifically, because these kind of questions will have maximum of 1 mark or 2 mark each. It can be 2 into 4, then 1 into 4. This is the pattern that you will have to understand, and I hope you have understood, you have enjoyed the session. So moving ahead, so these were some of the techniques which I discussed with you, and if you just follow these techniques of solving comprehension passages, you'll surely be benefited. If you have any questions, you may please post it in the comment box. I'll be answering them. Any questions? Any queries? So today's target was discussing the strategies how to solve comprehension passage, and I have discussed it and given certain examples. And the homework will be, if you revisit the entire session, if you see the video again and again and implement these strategies, then I'm sure it is going to be very, very beneficial to you. Talking about Unacademy, a wonderful online learning platform with multiple schemes and plans. And the best part is that there are iconic subscription, there is normal plus subscription, and if you apply my code, which was reflecting in the PC Live 10 or PC 29, you get a 10% discount. We have monthly, 6 monthly, yearly and bi-yearly plans. Anywhere you take a subscription, class 6 to 12, you will get a 10% discount if you apply my referral code PC29 or PC Live 10. This is the iconic subscription wherein you will have India's best educators tutoring you, and this is the plan which is reflected on the slide, and you will have a personal mentor for your iconic subscription live doubt solving. Your parents can also contact the educator, and the mentor or the educator is going to provide you with a study planner. Now comes the creative corner, which is once again a part. I'm going to talk to you about that. First of all, what are the facilities that we get on Unacademy? We have live classes, weekly quizzes, notes, doubt solving, practice questions, test series, etc. And that is how all the educators are guiding millions and millions of children and making a differences in their academic as well as in their life. So take a plus subscription. Do not give it a second thought. Now this is the creative corner. If you take a plus subscription, creative corner is going to be a part of your plus subscription, wherein you can have multiple extracurricular activities like doodling. You have Vedic maths, you have painting, then you have singing, etc. And there are experts who would be, teaching magic tricks, then debating, mnemonics, robotics, etc. Talking about the batches, I'm also a batch educator and I'm also associated with the complete revision batch of grade 9 as well as the Brahmastra batch with other educators, and these batches are very very crucial. So please join, use my code PC29. Please like and subscribe my channel, and I will get back once again with more and more interesting sessions. So till then, take care and bye bye. See you once again.